Hi there and welcome to this recording. Today I wanted to talk basically about how to make hard decisions in a conscious way, and about how self-awareness relates to this, and how to develop self-awareness that enables you to make conscious decisions when it comes to making choices that appear to be large and important decisions in our lives. For example, you might be in a relationship that you're not really happy in, and you could have these two voices in your head that one is saying, well, you need to stick it out, and it could just be you, and you need to be committed and try and make things work. And you could have another voice in your head that says, well, you need to cut your losses and move on and find a relationship that makes you happy. Well, basically I think what we have to understand is that every statement is true in its proper context, and likewise every choice is right and serves you in its proper context. And so what we have to recognize is that either one of those choices in and of itself is not wrong, but in a particular context, one of those choices will serve you better than the other. Now ultimately, whatever you choose is going to serve the highest good, because that's the way the universe works. If you choose something that doesn't serve you, then that will serve to teach you the lesson that you needed to learn about making perhaps some better choices. And in that way, the divine nature, I guess, of the universe will be fulfilled, in that everything works together for the greater good, and there is no such thing as a quote-unquote wrong choice. But part of our journey, I believe, is learning to make conscious choices, and so that's why I wanted to just address that a little bit today, and look at some of the issues surrounding that, and how to weed out the confusion and boil the decision down to its most important core elements. What I'm going to put to you is that in every decision, particularly the major decisions, deep down we know which choice is really aligned with who we are and where we are going. We already know that deep down, but our fears will talk over top of that and create doubt for us, and create hesitation, and ultimately potentially push us towards making a choice that isn't what we really want. For example, let's say you receive an advertisement for a new some sort of course, some sort of personal development or self-help course or a book, and you're looking at that and you're thinking about whether to do that. Now, for some people, taking that course or getting that book could be a very positive step towards realizing their own purpose and their own completion or furthering of their spiritual development. But for another person, buying that course could just be more procrastination, where they should be sitting down working on their own projects. Instead, they are procrastinating by spending time looking at someone else's course as a way of justifying to themselves that they are working towards their purpose, when in fact they're actually postponing and procrastinating. So the same choice, again, as I said earlier, the same choice can be very different in two different contexts. And this is where self-awareness comes in, because you need to be aware of yourself and aware of the fears that are coming up for you. Because otherwise you're going to think that you're making these choices because it's what you really want, but you're actually being driven out of almost subconscious fears that are steering you away from what you really want, out of fear. And that's what fear does. Fear separates us from what we really want and who we really are. And as I've touched on in some previous recordings, ultimately that does serve us, because in being away from who we really are and in covering up our true purpose and our true nature and experiencing the absence of it for a time, then we're able to experience it fully once we peel away those covers and reveal the truth of who we really are. But again, we've already all experienced that absence of who we really are, that separation from who we really are, and now our journey is to remember that and to be rejoined to that. So in order to do that, one of the things that we have to develop is a very deep self-awareness. We need to become very sensitive towards when we're acting out of fear, and that ultimately takes a lot of self-honesty. And ultimately, it's a lot easier to be honest with yourself than it is to tell yourself a lie, because it takes effort to tell a lie. It takes a lot of effort, but the truth is easy. The only thing that makes the truth seem difficult is your fears about telling the truth. So for example, someone that let's take someone that their purpose is to write a book on relationships and how to make your relationships work, just for a hypothetical example. And this person has been procrastinating on writing this book for several years now, and deep down they know that that's their purpose, but they're telling themselves that they don't know what their mission is. They don't know what their purpose is. And the reason they're telling themselves that is out of fear, because if they stop telling themselves that, then they'll realize what their purpose is, and then they'll have to walk in it. And the fearful part of their nature is afraid of that, and that's its job, is to be afraid from that and to try and keep them away from it, so that eventually they can experience it fully and deeply. So you have to understand that your fearful nature, the absence of your true nature, is going to resist against you finding your purpose and actually being active in it. And it's going to be very tempting to ignore your purpose, or to just cover over it with other things, other noise. I'm too busy doing this, I'm too busy doing that. Oh, I am working towards my purpose because I'm reading this book and reading that book. And those things may, in a certain context, be helpful, but in another context, they could be exactly the thing that's keeping you from your purpose. Again, the key to all of this is a deep sense of self-awareness and being aware of when you are procrastinating, of when you are operating out of fear. And you can learn to feel that. You can learn to feel when you're acting out of fear, because you'll realize that there's a certain an emptiness to it, a timidness, a lack of joy. And what you can begin to do is you can begin a process where over time you more and more do what you want to do. And these come all the way down to little choices such as even what to eat for tea. You might really feel like having a nice stir fry, but you can't really be bothered getting it, or you've created some reason in your head why it's a bit too inconvenient or hard, or but this other person who's here probably doesn't want that, so I'll just make something else instead. That might seem like a silly example, but it functions all the way down to this level. And ultimately what you find is that you become more and more free from fear, and more you just do the things that you want to do. If you feel like having McDonald's for tea, then you have McDonald's for tea. If you feel like having a stir fry for tea, you have stir fry for tea. If you feel like going and watching this movie, you go and watch it. If you feel like sitting down and writing, then you do that. And by eliminating those fears that cause us to hesitate from what we really want, even at the most basic levels, then you become liberated to do what you really want. And when you begin to do what you really want, then you really begin to function. Because one of the things that you really want to do is to function. And when you are walking and living according to what you really want, then you really are beginning to function. Because your deepest desires, what you really want, those are guiding you towards good things. Those are guiding you towards your purpose, towards light, towards living with love and connection and all of those kind of things. There is very much a relationship between your deepest self and what you really want. And when you get rid of all the noise and all of the pretenses about what you think that you want and what you are wanting but afraid or feel unworthy of receiving, when you get past that and live in the space of just giving yourself what you really want, then life becomes a lot easier. It becomes very, very easy, because you're not fighting with yourself anymore. You're not resisting yourself anymore. And as you begin to understand that process, then all kinds of decisions become a lot easier, because the decisions that serve you best are the ones that are aligned with what you really want. And you need to understand that it's okay to choose what you really want. In fact, that's what you're supposed to do. Your desires are there for a reason, and they're actually there to guide you towards the deepest realization of who you really are. And your desires are in alignment with who you really are. Now, again, you have to have self-awareness to be able to distinguish between what you really want and things that you just think that you want, because that's quite an important distinction as well, to recognize where you are thinking that you want something which you don't really want, or which isn't really going to serve your highest good and your best interests. And that's, again, a process of becoming very deeply self-aware and realizing who you really are, realizing what your truth is and what it is that you have, your gift to bring into the world. As you become more self-aware and become aware of the fears that you are allowing to hold you back, because ultimately you're the only one that can hold you back, no one else can. If you believe, as I do, that you are connected to and part of the divine infinite energy of the universe, then it follows logically that nothing can hold you back except you and your free will, your choices to believe that you are less than you really are. But as you begin to walk the path towards eliminating those fears and remembering who you really are, then what begins to happen is that you become free to make decisions that are aligned with what you really want, because you're not basing your decisions in fear. And I'll tell you this, one of the things that I've come to realize through my experience is any decision that you make that is based in a fear will never work out well for you. And this is how a lot of institutions, a lot of governments and leaders work, is that they make decisions based on fear of something. But whenever you make a decision that's based on fear of something, it doesn't serve your highest good, except that you might learn from that and in future make a better decision that's not based on fear but based on what you actually want. Because again, your deepest and highest desires are guiding you towards all good things and towards a life of abundance and joy and connection that is better than you could imagine, because ultimately you are better than you could imagine.